Book of Heaven, Volume 11. The 12th of January to the 2nd of March 1916. Page 118 to 123. January 12, 1916. Current and future chastisements of the nations, in particular of Italy. I was lamenting with blessed Jesus because of his usual privations, and I was crying bitterly. My adorable Jesus came, but in a sorrowful state, showing how things will get worse and worse. This made me cry more, and Jesus told me, "My daughter, you cry for the present times, and I cry for the future." Oh, in what a maze will the nations find themselves, to the extent of one becoming the terror and the massacre of the other, and of being unable to get out by themselves. They will do things as though crazy and blind, to the point of acting against themselves. And the maze which poor Italy is in. How many shocks she will receive! Remember how many years ago I told you that she deserved the chastisement of being invaded by foreign nations. And this is the conspiracy that they are weaving for her. How humiliated and annihilated she will remain! Too ungrateful has she been with me. The nations for which I had predilection, Italy and France, are those which denied me the most. They held hands in offending me. Fair chastisement. They will hold hands in being humiliated. And they will also be the ones who will start war against the Church. Ah, my daughter, almost all nations united to offend me, they plotted against me. What wrong did I do them? Almost all of them deserve chastisement. But who can say the sorrow of Jesus, the state of violence in which he was, and also my fright? Out of fear, I said to my Jesus, "How can I live in the midst of so many tragedies? Let me be the victim, save the people, or take me with you." January 28, 1916. Pains and fears of Luisa, but the greatest pain of Jesus is his constrained love. I felt oppressed. I thought to myself, everything is over. State of victim, suffering, Jesus, everything. I add that my confessor was not well, therefore I probably would have to do without communion. I felt all the weight of the suspension of my state of victim by Jesus. I had received no order from the guide, neither in favor nor against it. I added to this also my affliction, as I remembered that on March of last year, when my confessor was not well, and finding myself in the same conditions, Jesus had told me that if I or the one who guides me had kept me in the state of victim, he would have saved Corrado. Therefore, new fears, that I might also be the cause of some great trouble in Corrado. But who can say all my apprehensions and bitternesses? They were so many that I felt petrified. Now, my blessed Jesus, having compassion, made himself seen in my interior. It seemed that he had his hand on his forehead, all afflicted. So much so that I didn't have the courage to call him. Almost whispering, I just said, "Jesus, Jesus." He looked at me, but, oh, how sad his gaze was. He told me, "My daughter, how much I suffer. If you knew the pains of the one who loves you, you would do nothing other than cry. I suffer also for you, because not coming very often, my love is constrained and I cannot pour myself out. And in seeing that you too cannot pour yourself out because you do not see me, in seeing you suffering, I suffer even more. Ah, my daughter, constrained love is the greatest bitterness, which tortures a poor heart the most. If you remain quiet while suffering, I don't suffer so much. But if you trouble yourself and worry in your suffering, I fidget and become delirious, and I am forced to come to pour myself out and to let you pour yourself out, since my pains and yours are sisters. Furthermore, your state of victim is not over. My works are eternal and I do not suspend them without a just reason. I do not let them end. Moreover, I look at things in the will. So, you are just as you used to be, because your will has not changed. And if you don't have sufferings, you are not the one who is harmed. Rather, creatures do not receive the effects of your pains. That is, to be spared from chastisements. It happens as to the creatures who occupy public offices or government roles for a given time. When they retire, they receive a life salary, even if they no longer occupy those places. Should I be outdone by the creatures? Ah, no. If rulers and administrators give a life pension, I give them for eternity. Therefore, you must not be concerned for the pauses I make. And then, why do you fear? Did you forget how much I have loved you? The one who guides you will be prudent in your regard, knowing how things are, and knowing that they are in my will. And I will have a regard for Corrado. As far as you are concerned, whatever might happen, I will hold you tightly in my arms. January 30, 1916. When the soul lives completely in the divine will, all her work is reflected in Jesus, and the work of Jesus is reflected in her. I was fusing myself completely in my always adorable Jesus, and while I was doing this, Jesus came, fusing himself all in me, telling me, "My daughter, when the soul lives completely in my will, if she thinks, her thoughts are reflected in my mind in heaven. If she desires, if she speaks, if she loves, all is reflected in me, and all I do is reflected in her." It happens as when the sun is reflected in the glass. One can see another sun in it, completely similar to the sun in the heavens, with this difference: the sun in the heavens is fixed and remains always in its place, while the sun in the glass is passing. Now, my will crystallizes the soul, and all she does is reflected in me, and I, wounded and enraptured by these reflections, send her all my light, so as to form another sun in her. Therefore, one sun in heaven and another one on earth appear. What enchantment! What harmonies between them! How many goods are poured out for the benefit of all! But if the soul is not fixed in my will, it can happen to her as to the sun which is formed in the glass, which is a passing sun. After a while, the glass remains obscured, and the sun in heaven remains alone. February 5, 1916. Chastisements to the world and great trials for the few good. Only faithfulness will save them. I continue in my afflicted days, especially for the almost continuous threats of Jesus, that chastisements will spread more. Last night, then, I remained terrorized. I found myself out of myself and I found my afflicted Jesus. I felt reborn to new life in finding him. But no. As I was about to console him, some people snatched him from me and reduced him to pieces. What heartbreak! What fright! I threw myself on the ground, close to one of those pieces. And a voice from heaven resounded in that place: "Firmness, courage to the few good. May they not move in anything, may they not neglect anything. They will be exposed to great trials, both from God and from men. Only through faithfulness will they not stagger, and be saved. The earth will be covered with unseen scourges. Creatures will try to destroy the Creator, to have their own God, and to satisfy their whims at the cost of any slaughter. And with all this, not attaining their own purposes, they will arrive at the most awful brutalities. Everything will be terror and fright." After this, I found myself inside myself. I was shaking. The thought of how they had reduced my beloved Jesus gave me death. I wanted to see him at any cost, even for one instant, to see what had happened to him. And Jesus, always good, came, and I calmed down. May he be always blessed. March 2, 1916. Desire compensates for lack of power in the creature. Jesus wants to act in full mastery within the soul in whom he dwells, who gave herself to him. I continue my most bitter days. Blessed Jesus comes rarely, and if I lament, he answers with a sob of crying, or he says to me, "My daughter, you know that I don't come often, because the chastisements are encroaching more and more. So, why do you lament?" But I reached such a point that I could not take any more, and I burst into tears. In order to calm me down and strengthen me, Jesus came, and I spent almost the whole night with Jesus. Now he kissed me, caressed me, sustained me. Now he threw himself into my arms to take rest. Now he showed me the terror among peoples. Some ran away from one point, some from another. I also remember that he told me, "My daughter, the soul contains in her will all that I contain in my power." Therefore, I look at all the good that the soul really wants to do, as if she had really done it. I have will and power. If I want, I can. On the other hand, the soul cannot do many things, but her will compensates for power. In this way, she goes on to become like me, and I keep enriching her with all those merits contained in her goodwill, if she wants to do them." Then he added, "My daughter, when the soul gives herself completely to me, I establish my residence within her. Many times I like to close everything and be in the shade. Other times I like to sleep and place the soul as a sentry, so that she may not allow anybody to bother me and interrupt my sleep. And if necessary, she has to face the bothers and answer for me. Other times, I like to open everything and let in the winds, the coldness of the creatures, the darts of sin that they send me, and many other things. The soul must be content with everything. She has to let me do whatever I want. Even more, she must make my things her own. If I were not free to do whatever I want, I would be unhappy in that heart. If I had to be careful to make her feel only how much I enjoy, and to unwillingly hide from her how much I suffer, where would my freedom be? Ah, everything is in my will. If the soul takes it, she takes all the substance of my being, and encloses everything within herself. So, as she does good, keeping within herself the substance of my life, she makes that good come out from myself. Coming from me, that good runs like a ray of light for the benefit of all creatures.